Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Thursday, December the 15th, 2022. This week we've been looking at the reading from Isaiah 42, verses 1 through 9, which was our reading this past Sunday. It's the first of four servant songs. We talked about the other three just to give you an idea of how that sense of a servant is kind of plays out in the book of the prophet Isaiah. We're going to go back now to that first servant song, Isaiah 42, and something that I commented on in my sermon, where three times in the first four verses, God says through the prophet, I'll put my spirit upon the servant. He will bring forth justice. Later on, again, he will faithfully bring forth justice. And finally, he will not grow faint or be crushed until he has established justice in all the earth. Justice is a very important concept, not only in the Bible, but in our lives as well. There's all kinds of stories. Almost every day you could find stories of justice and injustice in the world. Two that came from about the same period of time. Back in 1984, a fellow by the name of James Ely was convicted in the 1982 brutal murder of a 33-year-old woman, her two children, and one grandchild. A couple of years later, however, the Illinois Appellate Court overturned his conviction, even though the justices acknowledged at the time that he was almost certainly guilty, but they said the police had arrested him without probable cause, conducted an illegal search, and so they ended up throwing out virtually all the evidence against him. And so he was eventually released from prison in 1999 because he was also serving time for another offense. But 2 decades after that first murder conviction was overturned, this same person was arrested in December of 2006 for the murder of the manager of the Burger King where he was working at the time. And so he was tried and convicted for her murder, and he received a life sentence for the second time. Around the same time, a fellow by the name of Robert Lee Stinson was arrested for the first-degree murder of a 63-year-old woman. After spending 23 years in prison in 2009 because of a new analysis of some DNA and bite mark evidence, it was revealed that none of that evidence could be traced to him for that crime, and so he was released. So in one case, somebody was guilty and was released. In another case, somebody was innocent and was convicted. There's a saying that goes, justice delayed is justice denied. It's a legal maxim, basically, that says if there is not legal redress or equitable relief, and it's not coming in a timely fashion, it's effectively the same as having no remedy at all. The late Supreme Court Justice Horace Gray once said to a man who escaped conviction on a technicality, I know that you're guilty, and you know it, and I wish you to remember that one day you will stand before a better and wiser judge, and that you will be dealt with according to justice and not according to law. The servant song in Isaiah 42 says his servant will bring forth justice. I talked in my sermon about the Hebrew word mishpat, which basically means it's a positive sense of God's law and order, where there is a peaceful and whole life that we live in relationship to God and with each other and really with all of creation. That's the goal of life, and the hope for life, certainly God's hope for us as well. And so Scripture is always talking about God's justice, and we try to achieve a degree of justice in our world, but laws and technicalities and so forth stand in the way. But there's a greater justice that awaits, and I think that's what Isaiah is talking about. But for now, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." He's also quoted as saying that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And Cornel West, who is the Dietrich Bonhoeffer Professor of Philosophy and Christian Practice at Union Theological Seminary in New York City, has said, justice is what love looks like in public. That's the kind of justice the Bible talks about. That's the kind of justice that Isaiah is talking about. It's a justice beyond and freed from the technicalities of human laws. It's a justice that ultimately traces back to God, who will make all things right in the end. Alrighty, we're going to move on and talk about, in our last 2 days, we're going to talk about being the light of the world. So I look forward to joining you for that tomorrow and also on Saturday. Until then, take care. Bye.